morning. I am Janessa Gonzalez Lozano from BS Ed2 Batch 7. Today, our topic is all about designing input and output to help encourage vocabulary learning. I hope that you're willing to listen and giving importance so that you will have your own ideas in this topic. Okay, vocabulary teaching has the goal of supporting language use. There has been considerable debates about how it can be done. The core of the debates involved the role played of the contextualized in vocabulary learning. The arguments against such usually include the following points, which are deliberate learning can only account for a small proportion of the vocabulary knowledge of learners. Deliberate learning, not in a communicative content, does not result in much learning. And deliberate learning not in a communicative context does not help later in vocabulary use in communicative contexts. This topic describes the three ideas that are very important in vocabulary development. The first one is a planned approach to vocabulary not be much more effective than dealing with vocabulary in ad hoc or opportunity ways. Second, there are many conditions that enhance the learning of vocabulary, and the major goals of materials development should be to design materials that are like to create these conditions. Third, these conditions need to occur in activities that go across the four equal strands. So the four equal strands is the learning from meaning-focused input, the learning from meaning-focused output, deliberate language-focused learning, and fluency development. Okay, let's have the planning vocabulary learning. Studies of the statistical description of vocabulary confirm that there is a relatively small group of words that are much more frequent and useful in a very wide range of language uses than other words in the language. There are these high-frequency words. Those are the essential basis of all language use and deserve a great deal of attention in language learning material. Unless learners have very special needs, it makes little sense to focus on other vocabulary before most of those high-frequency words have been well learned. Okay, here in vocabulary level and text coverage. So here in vocabulary level and text coverage. In vocabulary level, in the high-frequency words, so there are 2,000 number of word families and 80% coverage of text, and the source is in the West on the year 1953. Here in academic vocabulary, there is only 570 number of word families and 10% coverage of the text, and the source is in the Cox Head in the year 2000. In low-frequency words, there are only 11,000 number of word families and 5% coverage of text, and there is no source. Okay, here in proper nouns, there is no number of word families, only 45% coverage of the text, and there is no source. Let's move on and let's go to designing input activities to encourage vocabulary learning. Those are the listening to a text and having to answer questions, glossaries, and extensive reading. So that is the designing input activities to encourage vocabulary learning. So the learner adapts the activities, so they requires use of the target word, the learner to extend meaning of the word, the learner would to be used a linguistic context, and the learner to extend the meaning. Now let's go to designing output activities to help vocabulary learning. Working on communicative activities has shown that careful design of written input can have a major effect on vocabulary learning. Some design requirements and features of activities to support vocabulary learning are in the following. So these are the activities to support vocabulary learning, which are the written must contain L2 target words. The vocabulary must be highlighted and repeated. The communicative task must have a clear outcome. It must split information, jobs, and rules. The task should be broken into a series of steps. Supports the understanding of the target vocabulary. So that is in the inside of the output. So now let's have the fluency development. The main goal is making language items ready available for fluent use. Fluency is likely to develop in the following conditions or met, which are the learners take part in activities where all the language items are within that previous experience. The activity is meaning focused and there is support and encouragement for the learner to perform at a higher than normal level. Now let's have the ungraphic organizer, which you can see on the picture. So the approaches to developing fluency, which are the dual beaten path approach to fluency. Number 2, the richness approach. And number 3, the well-ordered system approach. Let's move on and let's go to range of activities. These examples of activities put into practice the conditions of AC demands, meaning focus and opportunity to perform at a higher than normal level. So the examples of activities are on the given, which are the blown up books, which is useful way of using listening to introduce learners to reading. Listening to stories, suitable for students who read well but whose listening skills are poor. Listening corner, learner listening to tape recorder stories. Speed reading training and extensive reading with text with a known vocabulary. And repeated reading, same text is reread several times. So that is in the inside of the range activities. Okay, now we are done and I want you to make your own idea about the example of fluency activity